So the House just passed the American Rescue Plan. I've had plenty of videos on my channel about what's in it. I think it's an okay bill. If you're doing it relative to the Republican bill. Yes, it's a much better bill than that. Less of the money goes to corporations and businesses. More of the money goes to people who need it. But it is very, very means tested. So the people that are gonna benefit from this bill are mostly going to be people with kids. With a lot of people don't have kids. So if you don't have kids, they're pushing this child tax credit as some huge, huge, huge win. It is better than the plan that used to be in place, but it's not going to be taking anyone who has kids completely out of poverty. It's not going to do that. And if you don't have kids, then you're an essential worker, you will get a one-time check. If you're still employed. If you're unemployed, you get the $1,200 per month through September of unemployment. They did make it so that the first $10,000 is tax forgivable. That is a good thing as well. But if you're an essential worker, and you work the whole way through this pandemic, you'll potentially get up to $1,400, but you won't get the minimum wage increase, which should have been in the bill, right? So I want to talk a little bit about progressive leverage. Because a lot has been said, about what the progressives did with this bill. All of them, apparently, I haven't looked at the count, but I think all of them voted for it. There was calls to hold out, not approve the bill, make it go back into negotiations until the minimum wage was put into the bill. Now, what did they say in response to that? They said, well, there's people struggling. The unemployment ends March 14th. We just need to sign the bill to get the help out there to those people. Now, what will I say in response to that? I understand your sentiment, but that rationale and that strategy is tried and tested, and it does not work. Okay? If you actually want to get progressive big ticket items into bills like this, must pass bills, then you need to be willing to withhold your vote. Now, in the CARES Act, which was passed under the Republican legislature, Republican control of government, passed through the House, though, Democratic House. They said the same thing, why they needed to vote on the bill at that time. Well, there's people struggling, so we know there's a huge bailout to corporations with, slight things in there to help people. But you saw 5-6 months later, people were still in a really bad place, and they needed to try to pass another stimulus bill. And now we're seeing the same excuse with this bill. So here's what I'm saying. They're going to give you the same exact scenario with this next reconciliation bill, which will be another must-pass bill regarding and around infrastructure. Now, if you're not willing to withhold your vote and do anything to get to the $15 minimum wage, which Biden already said he was for, didn't fight for it. He said he could convince Republicans to get on board. He was the unity candidate. He couldn't even convince Democrats in his own party to move to the position that he, the president, stated he was at, which was a $15 minimum wage, which just goes to show that he didn't really want that, doesn't really want to fight for it. What does that mean? That means he has to be pressured into it, into actually putting that in the bill, into actually negotiating with people like Sinema and the people and the senators from his own state who voted against the motion to proceed on Bernie's amendment. So if you actually want these things to happen, then you need to use your leverage to actually force those things to happen. So any other bill that's going to be passed other than this reconciliation bill, because the filibuster is still in place and you need 60 votes, it's not gonna be anything progressive. It's not gonna be any progressive legislation. So if the House actually wants to pass a bill that has, that is actually gonna make it through the Senate, then it's gonna have to be a very, very watered down bill, one that is probably not gonna have any big ticket progressive items in it. And in that situation, they actually don't have as much leverage, because if it's a watered down bill, they might actually get some Republicans to come on board for it. So in that situation, they don't have as much leverage with their small coalition withholding their votes. That's why it's so important in these must-pass bills to take advantage of these opportunities to actually ram in some of these big-ticket progressive items that we're looking for. So what is the future of leverage for progressives? Well, like I was saying, I don't think they're going to be able to leverage anything until this next infrastructure bill. They haven't really shown to be willing to withhold their votes. So why would you be expecting them to do the same thing in the next reconciliation bill? So this is kind of my plea. I'm hoping that, progressives and people that like progressives donate to progressives still. I know a lot of people have stopped donating to them because they just feel like if you're just going to vote along the party line every time and you're not actually going to withhold your vote, and do any big spectacles, why am I still, donating to you? I definitely understand and agree with that sentiment. But there are still people that, ardently support them, and that's great. I'm hoping that they can get things through Congress, even if it's slight advancements. I think a minimum wage, $50 minimum wage, is a slight advancement because it was the bare minimum ask. If they actually want to get things like that done, they're going to have to be able to be willing to withhold their vote, and it doesn't seem like they're going to do that. This was another major leverage point for them. One that doesn't seem like they weren't willing to use because the bill passed. And so we'll see when it comes to the next reconciliation bill. It's slated to, I think, start around September. Bernie wants it to start right away. Knowing that Bernie wants that, it probably won't start right away. It'll probably start in September. That's just how these things go. If they're not willing to actually play Manchin level hardball, then they're going to get rolled over every single time. Joe Biden believes he's the Democratic Party. I mean, in reality, it's kind of Joe Manchin's party right now. So yeah, that's kind of an update on that as far as this House bill, or this reconciliation bill, the American Rescue Plan. It's been passed. No $15 minimum wage in it. The bare minimum ask of progressives. I really don't see them fighting and withholding their vote on the next reconciliation bill, because this bill is actually an easier bill to withhold your vote and force the minimum wage into it. Next bill, it'll probably be a little bit more difficult. And those artificial roadblocks that Joe Biden put in front of himself, like the Senate parliamentarian not overruling her, those are still going to be there. Those are still going to be there in the future. So what's the plan? I'm wondering. There's definitely some progressives out there pushing for, more aggressive plans, more aggressive strategies. It doesn't really feel or seem like people in the House are willing to do that. So that's just the truth. That's the real diagnosis of kind of where we are right now as a progressive movement. So we'll see where it goes from here.